Go fuck yourself, says UFC President Dana White as he lashed out at the Las Vegas Review-Journal for their write-up of the preview of UFC 261. The very first sentence in this article, written by one illustrious Adam Hill, a fantastic journalist from Las Vegas, the first opening sentence reads, "At least 15,000 people are willing to risk permanent damage or death to attend a live sporting event again." Sounds like a harsh statement, but that statement is actually in the disclaimer on the tickets for those willing and for those that did attend the event in Jacksonville, Florida this past weekend. And Dana didn't take too kindly to that. He took offense to it. And I guess we'll throw it over to you to get some of your thoughts on Dana's reaction to this very, very, very basic write-up of what was in the disclaimer of the tickets.
You talk about jumping the gun. I mean, this is textbook Dana being Dana. Like, this is when we think about stereotypical Dana White, like classic rage Dana White. This is it. This is the epitome of it all. And he's, obviously has a long history of targeting particular media members. Quickly coming to mind, Josh Gross, who is still blacklisted by the UFC, which is absolutely ridiculous. There have been several reporters who have drawn his ire before, and I can name the examples. Helwani at UFC 199 being another prominent one. So I guess just add the Las Vegas Review-Journal and Adam Hill to that list. But wait, there's a twist. At the post-fight presser this past weekend, he made it very clear that he was not targeting Adam Hill. He's targeting the editors. I believe he used the term scumbag editors. I don't know, something to that effect, that they were sensationalizing this whole thing. To me, that just says he didn't read the article until well after he tweeted his or put on Instagram the "go fuck yourself" thing. Reading the article, it's a pretty run-of-the-mill thing. It's pretty mundane. It's not inflammatory. It's not making up anything. I mean, this is the language that's on the disclaimer from the tickets that netted them a $3.3 million gate at UFC 261. So I don't think this is really bad. I mean, and really the point of the article was to state that this is going to be the norm, that we have to get back to regular life at some point, and these sort of disclaimers are just going to be commonplace. Like, this is, if anything, this is an endorsement of the event. If I'm feeling this is taking one side or the other, I think he probably read the article finally after someone said, "Hey, just chill out," and he said, "Oh, well, I guess it's not that bad." So I don't know, man. It's just Dana's himself. I mean, this is what he's going to do, and just by speaking about this, we'll probably be the next targets or something. So whatever, man. It's par for the course if you are in mixed martial arts media. This is, you're very likely to end up in his crosshairs.
100%. And like you were saying, like it screamed that he didn't read the whole article, right? Because even just the title says, quote, UFC 261 to have first full fan attendance since before COVID. That's a fact. There's nothing inflammatory about that. Now, the very first line is definitely, it's definitely a hook. It's a hook line. Like, wow, I just read that opening sentence. I'm definitely reading the rest of this article. Apparently, I mean, if I would assume Dana sees his first line and was just like, throws his phone across the room.
Yeah.
In like a rage or whatever. But let's actually read his full Instagram post from a couple of days ago. Okay. This is from Dana White's official Instagram. It says, "Hey, Las Vegas. This is our piece of shit local newspaper." Like you said, he was more focused on the newspaper and the editors, correct? Right?
All right.
Okay. So to continue, he says, "Through this entire pandemic, we didn't lay off a single employee. We worked with governmental agencies in Nevada and around the world to put on every event safely." I don't know what that has to do with anything, but and we chose to bring our biggest fight of the year with Conor McGregor back to town July 10th to help relaunch the city. Yet this is how the Las Vegas Review-Journal shows its support for a true local business. Go fuck yourself, LVRJ, and don't bother coming to the fight in July. It's a very interesting statement there because, like we've already kind of touched on, all of this article was doing was highlighting some of the language that anybody, you know, thinking of attending this event, this was language that you would find in your ticket, on your fine print. Not even really all that fine print. You know, it's not like the size 3 font at the bottom of the ticket. It's actually quite larger because it is a significant health risk, right? So I don't understand the outrage here. I really don't. I don't get it, man. And like you said, if anything, it's more so an endorsement. Hey, I got 15,000 people willing to pack in. Like, we are still a hot ticket. We are still a hot ticket. Yeah, the pandemic is still not over with. I mean, that's just a fact. I know a lot of people out there don't believe that, but it's still a fact. Pandemic is not over. To have 15,000 people willing to pack into an arena with, as we saw in the broadcast, maybe a handful of masks in the crowd, maybe a handful at best. Everybody was in there. They were lit. They created a hell of an environment, to say the least, though. You got to give the fans credit for that. They were lit from fight one all the way to Kamaru Usman knocking out Jorge Masvidal. An incredible atmosphere. I just cannot get on board with this sort of reaction, and we've seen it from Dana before, like you said, from a number of different things. I have a number of different examples I won't say here on this video that I've been privy to. But this sort of outrage at journalists doing their job and writing an article that's just nothing but facts. It's when is he ever going to stop this? Does he have anybody in his ear saying maybe don't come after the media so hard when they're just doing your job and actually trying to help you promote your own company in a way?
Well, that's kind of the issue, is like this belief that is permeated among the fan base as well, that the purpose of mixed martial arts media is to promote the sport, specifically promoting the UFC. That is not our job. Our job is to report and analyze facts laid out in front of us. And of course, there's room for opinions. There's obviously in this, what we do when we do a lot of these videos, a lot of opinions, and there's room for editorials and whatnot. There is some gray area there, but none of that gray area includes just straight up promoting or being a bullhorn for the promotion. Quite frankly, that doesn't pay any of our bills. What pays our bills is, well, actually, we have other jobs because this doesn't pay bills, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't get paid to promote the UFC. Therefore, I will not act like I'm promoting the UFC. I will report on what happens in the UFC. And if it's good, well, it's going to sound like a good report. And if it's bad, well, take your medicine. Like, that's just what it is. That's the idea behind journalism, is just putting a voice to truth. And there's this constant idea that we exist to boost their product, and that is not the case. So until that mentality goes away, this will be this will happen again. There will be another Josh Gross. There'll be another Loretta Hunt. I mean, I am originally, my MMA media career started at SureDog, a site that has repeatedly been in his crosshairs, and that was just a thing you knew working there. Like, well, at any point he could just drop the axe on us. And that's what could happen. And, it's fine. Like, we're media. We report what happens, and if you don't like it, change what happens. That's simple.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic point, man. We are supposed to report on the news that we find out, whether it be favorable or unfavorable at the UFC, and we should not expect to get a lashing every time we report something that doesn't paint the UFC in a positive light all the time. Because guess what? Not everything surrounding the UFC is in a positive light. So again, we're not PR. There is a difference between PR and media. And that is something that a lot of folks need to understand. Dana White included. Dana White included.
Especially.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Especially considering that outlets like the Las Vegas Review Journal, any other major site that may or may not have had their credentials revoked at some point in time does more for the UFC than detracts from the UFC with spotlighting fighters, giving fighters that don't get that same shine from, the PR machine that is the UFC, week in and week out. These interviews that journalists like ourselves do, we don't do interviews here on the Body Lock just yet, but other outlets that do interviews day in and day out to promote, to get these fighters' voices out there, so people will tune in when they fight, when they step into the octagon. That's part of media's, contribution to the sport and to the growth of the UFC. I don't think a harshly written article every now and again is going to be something that, largely that Dana needs to worry about too much, especially when this particular example is not a harshly written article. It's just straight facts based on what is on the disclaimer of the ticket when you are trying to be the first to come back to full crowds in the middle or on the tail end ish of a global pandemic that has killed hundreds of thousands of people worldwide.
Millions worldwide.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands
in the US. Yes. Millions
Yes.
worldwide. Hundreds of thousands in the US.
If you don't like something sounding negative about the idea of packing 15,000 people into an indoor structure without masks and saying masks are optional or, do what you want and all that. If you don't like a report about that, don't do it. It's just that simple. If you plan on packing an arena to full capacity in this day and age, expect something to be reported about it that may not sound too good. If you have to put a disclaimer on the ticket to warn people that they could die because they showed up, maybe something's wrong with that picture, and it's not the newspaper article that uses the exact same language as that of the disclaimer on the back of the ticket. Just a thought.
Isn't it wild? Isn't it wild that the fans essentially had to sign the same waiver that the fighters do every time they step into the octagon, knowing that death is a potential outcome of them stepping in there?
And it's very clear. I think the way things were handled when this whole thing started, when this pandemic first started, and that whole commission shopping that was going on to get them to set up shop somewhere. It shows it's all about the bottom line, and they are a huge business valued at billions of dollars. So yes, they are about their money. We understand that, and at this point, we kind of expect it, even to this level of extremism. But don't be surprised if someone shines a light on it. I'm just flabbergasted by this lack of connection between, if I do something, somebody might say something about it.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like a very logical next step, of course, especially coming from people whose job it is to say something. It's
quite literally.
Quite literally, that's their job.
That's the bold line in the job description.
Yeah, and then another thing about this that really doesn't sit well with me is how he's bringing up this being a local paper. This is a Las Vegas local paper, and how dare they say something bad about us when we didn't lay off a single employee. Well, I mean, technically they didn't, because the fighters are independent contractors, but they've been cutting a lot of fighters for a reason, and they've said specifically because of COVID-19. So I think there is a lot lost in translation here. There are a lot of gaps to this Instagram post that's just saying go fuck yourself for telling us what's happening.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that they're leaving out, and quite frankly, if Dana White or the UFC want MMA media to simply just be a bullhorn for whatever they want to say, well, they probably should start cutting checks, because until they actually pay checks to media, like directly, they don't have a say in what we say.
100%. Las Vegas Review Journal, not the Las Vegas PR Journal. Anyways, let us know what you think in the comments below this whole situation. Was Dana out of line? Was he in line? Did you read the articles posted by the Las Vegas Review Journal? Did you see Dana's post? Obviously, you saw his post because we posted it here in this video. But let us know what you think about it below. Did the media step over any lines in their coverage of this event or any other event surrounding the pandemic and the return from the pandemic? Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell a friend to tell another friend. And then that friend must tell 10 more vaccinated friends.